Okay, so now we know about conditions of worth, and we know about how incongruence between the real self and then the ideal self can create anxiety, and how all these things might lead to us doing other approval kind of behaviors to get other people to approve of us. What can we do about it? Well, there's a couple things that I think you can do. Try to identify what are the conditions of worth in your life. What is your self-esteem? Another question to ask yourself is, what's my self-esteem based on? Like, what makes me feel good? And many people, what they do is if they have these conditions of worth operating strongly in their life, they may kind of morph these conditions of worth to be comparisons. So I have value if I'm like this. So if I have value if I'm attractive. And I usually know when I'm attractive if I can compare myself to somebody else and be like, I'm more attractive than you. Self-worth feels good, but the problem with that is you're not always going to be the most attractive person in the room. And in reality, attraction is going to be based on who's looking at you, really, because a lot of people like a lot of different things. So you got to ask yourself, what is my self-worth and self-esteem based on? And then once you realize what it's based on, start to ask yourself some questions about how much value should you be giving that thing? Should that really be attached to who you are and how much value you have? Even if society does it, this is when it becomes hard because there are a lot of things coming from the outside. But it's not just the outside battle you got going on, it's the inside battle. Those conditions of worth become internalized. Some people's parents are no longer alive, but things that those parents said to them are still living in their head. Or even the parents are alive and the parents are not saying the same things to them anymore, but they're still living in their head because they've created these conditions of worth. So you have to identify what are these conditions of worth that you have and then see if you can deconstruct them. They don't have to be as heavy as they might be right now. The other thing is, can you get one person in your life that has unconditional positive regard, empathy, and who is genuine? I know it might be hard, but if you can find one person like that, that could do a lot for helping create an environment for you to esteem yourself in a better way. One person or multiple people. And the other thing, if you are, however you're thinking about this, you might just be thinking about yourself, but you also want to think about other people in your life. If you have other people in your life, it doesn't matter if it's your kid, if it's your spouse, if it's your students, if you teach, if it's your employees. These conditions of worth come into play when they're interacting with you, right? So how you esteem them, if you're esteeming them only when they do certain things, is going to have an impact on that. So the other question you might be wondering is, okay, so does that mean I should have no conditions? Should I not have any bounds about when people do things right or wrong? Well, you can still judge a behavior. But remember when we go back to that kid? The 2-year-old can't be bad. The 2-year-old is a child that is doing behaviors, and you have to ask yourself with this kid, what are the behaviors you'd like to stop? But let's go back to adults for a second, because this is where it matters. We're talking about you and I. When you ask yourself questions about your behaviors, just because you're late to work every day doesn't mean you have no value. You can make a decision if you want to continue to be late or not, but don't attach that decision to who you are as a person. And opposite, just because you're an all-star at work, here's the other one, that doesn't mean you have more value. You don't have more value than the next person just because you achieve better or you meet your condition of worth. And if you can find a way, it's going to be hard. It's hard for all of us, hard for myself too, to detach yourself from these conditions of worth and be more authentic. It's going to be like cutting chains. You, my friend, are going to be free. It's going to be a constant cut of chains because you're going to cut some and then you're going to realize, oh, you have these other chains you didn't recognize, and there'll probably be some chains you can't see. Like I said, I don't think you'll be able to get rid of all of them. But you'll get rid of enough that you'll start to feel lighter on your feet and you'll start to feel more congruent because you'll be in more contact with your authentic self. Part of the problem is not just the congruence. It's people only see this ideal self that they think they should be right now. And they have no contact with this authentic self. It's like whispering to them all the time. And they ignore it because they feel like if they listen to it, they will lose value. So I should not have to tell you you have value because this is going to this whole idea of a condition of worth. But I do want to confirm that you have value. And you don't have value because you're smart, because you're good looking, or any of those things. You have value because you exist. I also believe you have value because I think you have some type of gift. But minus that, even if you don't use your gift, you still have value because you exist. That's it. All right. Hope you enjoyed. Leave comments if you like.